If you're a regular viewer of Oklahoma gardening, you've been exposed to many different gardening pests over the past few years. Well, today we thought we'd try something a little different and take a break from our hot gardening chores and give you a little quiz to test your skills on some of our most common ornamental insects this time of year. We'll show you symptoms and damage, provide you a list of insects, and then you would match up the correct answer. Our first pest occurs on marigolds, tomatoes, junipers, and similar other plants. Some of the symptoms are speckled foliage, a general loss of vigor, even possibly some death, and in late stages you'll notice a silken web. Your choices are aphids, mites, ants, or caterpillars. If you chose B, mites, you chose the correct answer. As many of you know, mites are really not an insect at all. They're really closely related to the spiders and ticks. You've also seen on our show in the past a good way to test for mites, and that's to use the white sheet of paper, tap the foliage, draw a circle around the specks. If they start to crawl, you'll see them. Or you can even smear the bottom of the leaf on the white paper, and if you get any red streaks, you know you've got spider mites. The reason you want to test on the underneath side of the foliage is since they are insects with sucking mouth parts, this is the area that they are most likely to be and feed on the foliage. Controls are quite a range. We have diazinon, malathion, orthonex, isotox, dursban, and kelthane is one that's been around but is getting more and more hard to find. If you don't like to use some of these insecticides, frequent washings and even some insecticidal soap is a safer way to go. This time of year though, you need to keep in mind that you may have to apply applications anywhere from 1 to 3 times, even 5 to 10 days apart, and you may want to switch on your insecticide so you don't build up any resistance. Our next symptoms that we want to show you are shiny leaves, speckled leaves, sooty mold or a mold that will grow on the foliage, and usually these symptoms are found on elm trees, pecans, and walnuts. In severe cases, you'll even see spots of sap on your car windows or any of your lawn furniture. Your choices are elm beetles, caterpillars, borers, and aphids. If you chose D, aphids, you again chose the correct answer. Aphids are actually sucking insects again in the truest sense of the word. They suck sap from the plant foliage several times their weight. Aphids do not have any kind of an insect shell, so once they get full of the plant sap, they have a tendency to secrete the sap, which we call honeydew, which then falls on the foliage, and after the population of aphids increase, you'll start to see it dripping then off of the foliage onto your car and lawn equipment again. Aphids, or plant lice as they're known, are controlled by diazinon, malathion, orthene, and metacistox. But you want to make sure you always read the label. For example, orthene is not labeled for American elms and redbud. Our last symptom that we want to show you actually causes loss of foliage, loss of vigor, and as the season goes on, you'll see the appearance of silken sacs with different leaf fragments. This pest is usually more of a problem in our cedars and junipers, but has been known to even get on some of our deciduous trees and even in unlikely areas such as in a garage. The choices are mites, lace bugs, bagworms, and pine tip moth. Bagworms is the correct answer. Well, fortunately for us, bagworms only have one generation a year. Their eggs overwinter in the silken sacs or the bags, and the larvae hatch in the late spring and then begin to feed on our foliage. This time of year is when the male will emerge from the sac, and the male is actually a black moth with clear wings. He will then fly to one of the female sacs where they will mate, and the female will lay the eggs and then die. Bagworms this time of year are almost impossible to control because they're so large. So you may want to try to hire some of the neighborhood kids to come in and just pick some of them off even and pay them a penny a piece or something like that. But if you want to try to control them, the spring is the best time using malathion, diazinon, 7-orthene, or another safe product is BT, which is sold in Bactur, Dipel, or Biotro. Well, these are some of our most common insect pests that affect ornamentals. And like we've told you over the past several shows, early detection is the key. It's important to frequently check and observe your plants because the sooner that they come out and emerge and the smaller they are, the easier they are to control. If you have a history of these problems on the same plant year after year, you may have to do a little bit of pre-treatment or timing when you know those insects are going to be out.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.